In this video we are going to see how to convert this PSD into this HTML using Bootstrap 4. As you can see, this is the PSD and this is HTML. There is no difference at all. Let me create it. For that, to create the project, what you need is you need one index file, one style sheet, and 4 images. So let me create it from scratch for you. Let me create a folder called project 4. I have already created three projects earlier, which would be in the playlist. You can see, you can watch it and learn it. You will get it along with the source code. If you look into the description, you will get the source code. Fine. Let me open my favorite text editor, which is Visual Studio Code, and let me create a file called index.html. As I said, we need one HTML file, one CSS file. I'm creating the CSS file right now, and we need 3 images. Fine. Now we are going to use the Bootstrap 4 version. So for that, I'm going to get the CDN. We are not going to download and use the Bootstrap. We are just going to use the CDN. That means the online version. Fine. If you get into the W school, if you copy paste and paste it into your HTML, you'll get the template. This template would consist of Bootstrap CSS, Bootstrap.css, Bootstrap.js. We don't need the JS version, we just need the Bootstrap version. And I'm going to link my style sheet as well, and we are going to use Font Awesome. You can see we have Font Awesome on the bottom. You can see there are Facebook links. To get the Font Awesome CDNs, you have to get into the W3 school. You'll get the link, just copy it and paste it in your head tag. And here we are going to use the font called Google Poppins, or it's just the name Poppins. You have to click on the first link. You have to choose which version of Poppins you like. I like this version, so I'm clicking on it. Select the style. If you click on embed, you'll get the link tag. Just paste it on the head, and this is the font family. So in the body, I want all the elements to have this font family. So that's what I did. Now we are going to use one paragraph, two headings, which would be of HC and H4. So paragraph will have font size, will have line height, and have color. The same thing would be applicable for heading 4 and heading 5. The line height and the color. The font size of the paragraph will be small. The font size of the H4 element, you can see it is 1.5, slightly bigger than. Now this is smaller than the H4. Now for all the heading except the H5, I want the color to be orange. Fine. Let's start with the HTML. You can see, to start with the basic, we have 4 columns. So let's create a row and with 4 columns call MD3, and inside the first column we have an image, so let's call it an image. We have already placed the image called 1.jpg. Let's see, there is no image, so let's copy paste it. We need 4 images, so let me copy the 4 and paste it in our current folder. Now you can use the image to fit the image inside the container of the column. We are going to use image fluid. So if I open my index.html, and this is how it looks. Fine. Now it's time for the second column. As we already discussed, we are going to use 4 columns. Now this would have, let me remove it, this would have 2 headings and 1 paragraph. Starting with small headings, this is the text for it. And now we have heading 4, which is slightly bigger than the heading 5, and then we have a paragraph. Now if you refresh it, you can see this is how it looks. So let me copy paste it for the second images. Let me change the image name. So if you refresh it, you can see. Now to copy the whole row and repeat it again. Change the image name, and now let's check. Now this works perfectly. Now let's surround it with a section so that we can give background color to it. Let's give an ID called block, we can identify it with ID, and let me give the background color. It is not black, it is slightly like black, so that would work. Now let's change the color of the text to paragraph and heading to white. I'm just replacing it, and now that's done. Now let's check. That's working. Now you can see there is some space above the heading 5. So let me give the margin top to the heading 5, or you can give margin bottom to the column. Now let's check if that doesn't work, we can change and give the margin top to the heading. Now let's check. That won't work. Let me give the margin top to the H5. Give the class as margin top. The max is 5 value. I'm just copy pasting it to the next 4 thing, since it has all the same text, that is the May 4th 2019. And now that works. You can see we are slightly close. Now let's check. Let's increase the font, let's decrease the transparency of white for the paragraph, or for the paragraph and heading. Just refresh it. You can see the next thing. Let's take a screenshot and look and compare whether we are on a right track or not. So there is some space at the right hand side. You can see in our screenshot it says there is some space at the right hand side. So let's solve it. It's because of the scroll bar. Let's see why we are getting scroll bar. To remove the scroll bar, what you have to do is you have to give the margin left as 0 to the row. Let's check. Now let's check with the column. I believe that won't work. Still it's there. Now let's give margin left and right as 0 to both the rows, and still let me refresh it. Now it's not there. You can see it's gone. So you have to give margin left and right as 0. Now let's get into the second section, which is the footer. It has 3 columns, so use a row and give call md4. The first one will have one heading. The heading I have already copied and pasted in my notepad, and the second one is the paragraph, and the third one is simply the collection of font awesome icons. You can see it is each of them are in the right side, that is each of them are floated to right, so you can use dflex as the container. So whatever you write inside it, it will float as right. We'll surround it. I'm going to surround the font awesome icon with the anchor tag. So we have 5 to 6 icons. Let me paste it on the place of X. Please note the class dflex. Whatever you write inside this div, it will be floated to right. So if you refresh it, you can see now. Let's give the color to the footer as slightly dark. The triple one would work, and that's right. Now let me make it H4, because we were getting orange color. We don't need the orange color, we need the whitish color. So let's change the color of the font awesome icon. Inside the footer we have anchor tag, so let's change the color of it to white. We don't need white, we need slightly white. Let's see. I'm going to change increase the font size of the font awesome icon to 1 em. Let me make it 1.5. We are overriding it. It won't work. We have to give important. You can see it is not working at all. It is because you have to give important, because we are going to override the bootstrap style. You can see by default it is getting the style, so I'm going to override it. So if you make 1 it won't work. If you make 1.5, and you can see that works. So let me make it 1.5 along with important. So right now you can see the font size has increased for the font awesome icons. Now in the second column, so there is a problem. When we hover it is changing to yellow. So let me change the color. When we hover I want the white to remain white, not to turn blue. The blue is for the default bootstrap version. Fine. Now let's get into the second column, which has an heading quick links. Let's copy and paste it, which I have already made it on the notepad. It's in another column, so let's create another column with call md4. So it's in heading, so let's copy paste the heading. And we have two sections. The first section is of one li and the second section is of another li. So both of them are right or floated right. So let's use the deflex class, which we have already used for the font awesome icon. So we are having two direct child for the deflex. So these two direct child would be floated right, sorry, floated left. So let's place our menu inside an anchor tag, copy paste it some more time. And these are the links. These are the text should be inside the links. And before the link, what we need is we want the font awesome icon, which is chevron. Now if you see, the list item would be floated side by side, and that's working. Now I'm going to pause it and replace text. And now you can see I have filled the text. If you refresh it, you can see. Now let's style this. So inside the footer we have an ul, inside the ul we have li, inside the li we have anchor tag. So let's decrease the font size to 1, and that works. So we want to remove the margin and padding for just the first element, and before that I want to remove the list style to none. You can see previously there was some icons. Now I have removed it by using list style type 9. For the first child I want to remove the margin and padding, so margin and padding 0. Fine, and that works. So let's jump into the third one, the cathode column. Let me minimize it. Now call md4. Inside that we have one heading and 4 to 5 columns, which would be of address, contact us, the text for heading, and let's create a paragraph. You can see this is the icon for address, and this is the icon for phone, fax and envelope. Let me copy paste it just above the text of the paragraph, and this is the text. Let me copy it and paste it just after the icons inside the paragraph. Now if you look into the output, and this is how it looks. somewhat similar. Now let me change the line height for the list item. So let's choose the list item and let me increase the line height of it. Let me increase it, not decrease it. That looks okay, I believe. Now we need space, so let's first place our HTML into a container so that we can get a max width, and this width would be in the center. And then now we are going to use padding left and right to the point of 5. The max point is 5, so we are getting padding on left and right. Now I have made it Y, that means it's top and bottom. So let's give the container padding top and bottom as 5. Now you can see the heading. Choose the heading. Inside the footer we have a heading called H4. I want to change the color to orange, and let me override it, and now that works. Now if you see, we need some margin top on the font awesome container, so let me increase to 5, and now you can see there are so many spaces. Let me decrease to 4, and that's how it works. Fine. Now there is space below the heading, so let me choose the heading. We have 3 heading, and let me give the class margin bottom to 3, and that looks okay, I believe. For let me give the margin bottom to all the headings inside the column of footer. Now if you see the final output, this is how it looks. You can see the font awesome icon. let me give the Let me increase the transparency of whiteness on the footer. Let me replace it. If you see, there is some transparent on white color for the text color of footer. Now I'm going to make it 3, margin bottom 3, and that's fine. That looks great. Now you can see on the address, the font awesome icon is very close to the text. So for that, choose the icon I tag, which is inside the footer. Inside paragraph I have an I, so let me give the margin right as 1 em. So let me give it 1.8, and that works. This is how we create PSD to HTML. Get the source code in the description to follow along. Thank you so much for listening.